And we want to focus on the champions of business because nominations are open, but they close in a couple of weeks' time for the 2019 Champions of Business Awards. The Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce will be hosting the Champions of Business Awards function on November the 15th. So it's just over 2 months away from now at NAPA, the National Academy for the Performing Arts. The event is in recognition of excellence in business, acknowledges the nation-building contributions of inspiring business leaders, celebrates the spirit of entrepreneurship, and hails the achievement of local companies that have succeeded in expanding their operations overseas, all hoping to achieve that without having the industrial court or JTUM mentioned any time in the course of that discussion. But to tell us more, we're joined now by Gabriel Faria, who is the CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber, and Ian Galt, who is the General Manager of Enterprise Services, TSTT. And if you say, but wait now, and they was here a little while ago? Yes, they were, just at the time when nominations were being opened, but we have the two of them here with us again to tell us how the process has been moving forward and remind us of the fact that nominations are closing pretty soon. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks very much for joining us. So, Mr. Faria, how are things going as far as nominations?
We actually have, because of the outreach we have had, we've gotten a lot of nominations. But we use this opportunity to really reinforce. We're coming to the end of nominations, and we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to be nominated. In fact, over the past couple of weeks, we have gotten some companies I have not heard about. And it's so interesting to hear about businesses and what they're doing. In fact, one of the companies sent me a WhatsApp this weekend to say they're just opening their first company outside of Trinidad in St. Lucia. And that is the beauty of technology. I mean, when you think of our Hall of Fame and our champions of business, you think about people like Lal Paladi and Helen Bhagwan Singh. But when you hear about these young businesses, I mean, I see we pay in the papers every so often. They won last year. And they're doing business in Jamaica and in Guyana and who knows where else. And that is why today we're focusing on the Technology Awards. And
before we talk about the technology element with Ian Galt a bit more and why that is so relevant to the Trinidad and Tobago of today, nominations close on the 6th of September at midnight. Just remind everybody again, for those who might still have people or businesses that they'd like to nominate, what they have to do.
Right. So very easily, you can go to the Chamber website, chamber.org.tt. You can do everything electronically online, so you don't need to submit hard papers. You can just log in and send that information online. If you're digitally challenged,
like I am,
you can call in and we can send you the forms by PDF and you can fill them out and drop them in. You can call us. We'll have someone help you fill out the forms because we want everyone to have a chance. But don't forget, we have a range of awards internationally known. Right? We have Entrepreneur of the Year award. So we have so many awards, and we have people who are focused on each of the areas. So this is the opportunity. Today, as I said, one of the focuses that we want to have is, of course, on technology, but recognize that this recognizes businesses across multiple spheres, from the people who have accomplished so much, to the people who are looking outward, right, to the entrepreneurs, both startup and emerging. And again, I must recognize all the sponsors. I must recognize Guardian Life. I must recognize EY, who have been working so hard in the entrepreneurial landscape. And some of you may remember that Sasha Cosmetics actually went up to the international awards. I must recognize First Citizens, a company that really focuses on being internationally known and T&T owned. And on top of that, we have of course TSTT, and we also have Unit Trust, who is also focused on helping small businesses.
Indeed, and they need to be recognized, and it would be surprising if a business chamber doesn't recognize sponsors for the big event that's coming up. And as I said, even a dinosaur like me could go on the website. It's www.chamber.org.tt, and I'm right in front of me, I'm seeing the 2019 Business Technology Award, sponsored by B-Mobile. So Mr. Galt, tell us again about why, it sounds like an obvious question, but why it is so relevant to celebrate the business technology element of enterprise in Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, Fazir, not to be repetitive on what Gabriel said, but today I think technology is the disruptor. People's business, you will either disrupt an industry and your competitors, or you will be disrupted. To Gabriel's point, I think today quite literally you have businesses that maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, people may have had great ideas, but the ability for large capital investment, which is what would have been required for technology, would have been very difficult, if not maybe impossible for some people to access. Cloud computing has changed that. People can provision infrastructure as a service, communications, they can provision it up, they can provision it down. You're not tied into long-term contracts. So quite literally, in the case of this gentleman who is doing work for Disney, something like that, especially with animation, that would be very heavily what we call bandwidth intensive. So you're talking a lot of imagery, takes a lot of bandwidth to send, to receive. With today's communication, that's easy to do. Time was you traveled and you would log on to your email and you would go sit and make a cup of coffee while your email downloaded. You wouldn't accept that today. We live in an instant world. You log on to your Hotmail or your Gmail or your company mail, and it's there. And that is all enabled by cloud computing and by communications, and that really is the differentiator.
And I suppose from a Trinidad and Tobago's perspective, and given your position at TSCT, the question would be, are we up to speed literally, in the sense that as far as the reliability and the consistency of that service, are we where we want to be?
I don't think for Zir any company will ever be where they want to be, because I think everyone aspires for 100%. That's ultimately what we all want. I think the big differentiator is, years ago a communications company would put down an infrastructure, and that infrastructure would be there for 10, 12, 15 years. Nowadays we came up with 4G LTE maybe 2 years ago. We're doing 5G this year. It's a constant investment in equipment. And I suppose, with that, you are bringing some level of being on sort of bleeding edge as opposed to leading edge, and the challenges that brings. But I don't think from a service perspective we will ever be, we strive literally for perfection. It may sound a bit cliche, but we do. And so there is always room for improvement, whether the improvement is in the service of itself or whether it is in the service of the people, process, tools behind what we are delivering.
And Mr. Faria, in the time that we have available, I mean, talking about, innovating and changing to meet a changing environment, from the Chamber's perspective, are you satisfied that events like this, Champions of Business, and with all of the various elements and the general modus operandi of the Chamber, is pushing Trinidad and Tobago, and especially the private sector, in the direction that you'd like to see?
I think what you are seeing as a chamber is 15 years ago. This ceremony is 15 years old, this whole recognition. And we focus very much on the entrepreneurs and what they had, so the old people who had contributed. And we recognize that today we need to help pull the small businesses up. And those are the conglomerates of tomorrow. The businesses that people talk about large companies, but every one of these large publicly held companies, the local ones, started off with two guys. Massey started off with two engineers doing Massey engineering. Geddes Grant started off with the two fellows trading. And Samakal started off as a McEnany group. But they started off as, again, two guys doing trading or doing engineering. So today, what we are focused on is helping these small businesses to scale up.
And I suppose that is the issue. I understand the point that you're making, because some might argue that the environment then was hugely different, that would allow so-called small people to really develop into these massive conglomerates. Are we in an environment, to use the phrase again, enabling environment? Is this an enabling environment, or is it especially challenging for newcomers to the business place?
The current economy, according to the private sector, is challenging. But again, that is why we need our level. The percentage of small businesses in Trinidad compared to larger businesses are very small, because money is not the only enabling factor. What the Chamber provides also is access to mentorship, access to training, and just access to networking. And we need to build 1,000 small businesses. We need to get these businesses, ready them, so they can become the Massey's, the Ansa Macals, the Agostinis of the in the next 20 and 30 years. And when I look at a company like WePay, where they are today, where they were a year, as Ian said, there are companies that start up a year ago. And when you look at their scalability, because they're technology-based, it's amazing that this company started 2 years ago, is in 4 countries already. Now, I guarantee you that 30 years ago, when the guy started a business, he didn't know how to get out of Trinidad. Right? And that is the difference today.
And a final thought from you, Mr. Galt, before I ask Mr. Faria to remind everybody again how they can do their nominations and the deadline and so on. From your own point of view, the business environment and an event like what's going to be happening on November the 15th, is it happening at a good time for business innovativeness in Trinidad and Tobago?
I think it's happening at a good time. I think arguably it's happening at a very important time for us. As Gabriel said, as a country, the economy is certainly not where we'd like it to be. The growth is modest at best. And I think it is these entrepreneurs that will help grow the economy. If you I don't want to take too much of your time, but if you look back to the beginnings of companies like Joseph Charles Bottling Works, and you ever read the story of the challenge that Ken Charles' father faced, in a world today where if he had what exists today in terms of his product, arguably he could be a competitor to Coca-Cola. Simply not simply on the how good the product is, but the ability to get his product on a global scale. And that's the differentiator. Because it's not just whether your product's good, it's the ability to get out there without having to do bricks and mortar in 100 countries. Especially
when you have technology giving you springboard to leap the walls very easily.
Correct.
So Mr. Faria, if you could just give everybody again the information as to how they can make those nominations.
So, as I said, chamber.org.tt. Fazir has it on his computer, easy to get onto. The sliders there, you will see the different awards. Email ceo@chamber.org.tt. Call our 637-6966. Say, please help me fill out a form. Or just call in and give us the information. The nominations close on the 6th of September. The award is on the 15th. I met someone, Fazir, this week, and he said when he left that award ceremony, he felt like he could go out and conquer. Because when he heard the stories about the businesses, about SM Jalil, they won the internationally known award last year. And I mean, again, a company in Tahiti producing and selling product in South Africa and India, right?
It's a different world. So the world has changed. It's gotten a lot smaller in that regard, but it makes it more challenging to be on the cutting edge or the bleeding edge, as Ian Galt made the reference this morning. Thanks very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Being with us this morning. Don't forget to send the special invites to the industrial courts and GTAM for the event on November the 15th. We'll be back right after this.